All right, buckle up for a deep dive into a case that'll send chills down your spine. We're going back to Buffalo, New York, January 2010, a frigid winter night. Picture this, a frantic 911 call, flames erupting from a house, firefighters racing to the scene. It's a chaotic scene, and what starts as a battle against the blaze quickly takes a dark turn when it becomes a double homicide investigation.
Yeah, and what's particularly fascinating about this case right from the get-go is that the fire itself, the very thing that exposed the crime, could have easily destroyed all the evidence.
It's like a detective's worst nightmare, right? I mean,
Yeah.
talk about a puzzle.
Yeah.
But thankfully, we have Fire Marshal James O'Neill leading the investigation. He's known for his meticulous approach, and some even say he has a unique sense of smell that helps him uncover the truth.
Ah, yes, the legendary nose of Fire Marshal O'Neill. But jokes aside, his attention to detail in this case is truly remarkable.
Absolutely. So the firefighters arrive at the scene. Second floor is engulfed in flames. It's snowing steadily. And as O'Neill starts his investigation outside, he notices something crucial. There are no footprints in the fresh snow around the house.
No forced entry right away. That's a big clue. It narrows down the possibility, suggesting someone familiar with the house, someone who already had access.
It's like the pieces are already starting to fall into place, even at this early stage. And inside, the scene only gets more intriguing. The smoke detectors, deliberately disconnected. The phone line, unplugged.
Clearly a deliberate attempt to prevent any calls for help, to ensure the fire would spread quickly.
And on the stairs, right next to a photograph of one of the victims, O'Neill finds a box of matches and something even more unusual, a battery-operated smoke detector, but with the battery removed.
Chilling, isn't it? It points to premeditation. Someone meticulously planned this, took deliberate steps to trap the victims inside.
And it gets worse. The fire itself, it wasn't just an accident. It was concentrated in a single bedroom, indicating the use of an accelerant to fuel the blaze.
This wasn't just about setting a fire. It was about ending lives. The level of planning and control is really disturbing.
It's a horrifying thought. And now we have to talk about the victims. Chessa Hawkins, a 27-year-old mother. She was celebrating her birthday that night. And Bernard Milner, her new boyfriend, who is described as a large, imposing figure. It's a heartbreaking loss.
And then there's the discovery of Chessa's unopened birthday card, discarded in the trash. It raises so many questions, doesn't it? Was this a sign of trouble in their relationship, a gesture of rejection, or could the card have been from the killer themselves?
Chilling possibilities, for sure. Now, enter homicide detective Mark Glauber. He's got a reputation for reading people, for navigating those complex interviews and getting to the truth. And during his investigation, Bernard's family comes forward with a crucial piece of information. Chessa's ex-boyfriend, Byron Howard.
Ah, yes, the ex-boyfriend. It's often the case, isn't it?
It seems that Byron had left a series of voicemails on Bernard's answering machine, messages filled with rage and threats of violence. And people who knew Byron described him as having an unsettling demeanor, a palpable sense of danger about him.
So we have a suspect with a history of anger, possessiveness, and a clear connection to one of the victims.
Exactly. And remember that unopened birthday card Chessa threw away. It turns out that Byron had visited her house earlier that day, even sliding a card under the door after she refused to see him.
So we see a potential pattern of escalating tension, possibly even obsessive behavior, and the possibility that the card in the trash was from Byron adds a whole new layer of creepiness to the case.
No doubt. But was Byron Howard truly capable of such a horrific act? To find out, investigators bring him in for questioning. And this interrogation, it becomes a pivotal point in the entire case, revealing a lot about Byron's character and his potential role in the crime.
Yes, and interrogations are always fascinating from a psychological standpoint. It's a delicate dance between the investigators, who are determined to uncover the truth, and the suspect, who's trying to protect themselves.
It's a battle of wits, for sure. So let's dive into what happened during this crucial interview. Byron arrives, initially presenting himself as calm and collected. Claims to have had a loving relationship with Chessa, even insists they were planning to get married. But Detective Glauber isn't buying it. He sees right through the act.
And Byron's facade starts to crumble when Glauber confronts him with those threatening voicemails. Byron denies leaving them, but phone records quickly prove otherwise. His credibility takes a major hit.
And the lies keep piling up. He offers not one, not two, but three different alibis for the night of the murders, each contradicting the last. He's scrambling, desperately trying to come up with a believable story, but only digging himself a deeper hole.
It's a classic case of someone trying to control the narrative but failing miserably. The more he lies, the more suspicious he becomes. His initial calm demeanor is replaced with agitation, desperation.
And then things take a truly wild turn. Right in the middle of the interrogation, Byron makes a run for it, bolts out of the police station, leaving his jacket behind, sprinting through the snow.
Talk about a fight or flight response. It's almost as if he couldn't handle the pressure, the fear of being exposed. It's the kind of impulsive decision that screams guilty conscience.
It certainly casts doubt on his claims of innocence. So now, with the suspect on the run, the investigators are desperate for a break in the case. Their focus shifts to someone who could either clear Byron's name or seal his fate. His friend, Jacoby Barr.
So Byron's on the run, and the case heats up even more. Investigators, armed with an arrest warrant and Jacoby's statement, they head straight to Byron's house, hoping to catch him before he vanishes completely.
But this arrest, oh man, it turns into something straight out of a movie.
Yeah.
Byron, desperate to escape, actually uses a baby as a human shield while he's fighting off the officers.
It's a truly disturbing and reckless act, using a child like that. Underscores his volatile nature, his disregard for anyone's safety but his own. Makes you wonder, was it calculated? Or just pure panic?
Either way, it's not a good look, right? Investigators said the scene was total chaos. Byron fighting, the tension, the desperation, it was all just palpable.
A stark reminder of how far some people will go to avoid facing the music.
Thankfully, those officers, they managed to secure the baby and finally apprehend Byron. Drama over, right? Well, not quite. With Byron finally behind bars, the focus shifts to the legal battle. And Byron makes a surprising decision. He opts for a bench trial.
A bench trial, for those not familiar with legal terms, means the judge decides the verdict, not a jury, not a common choice, especially in a homicide case with such high emotions involved.
Seems risky, right? I mean, the evidence against him is pretty substantial. Why go that route?
It is a gamble. Suggests maybe Byron's thinking strategically, believing a judge might be less swayed by emotional arguments, but focusing purely on the legal technicalities.
Hoping for a more objective perspective, maybe. Less chance of a jury being influenced by the grief and anger surrounding the case.
Exactly. So it's a high-stakes move for sure.
So how does it play out?
The trial, well, picture a packed courtroom, family, law enforcement, even other attorneys, all there to witness this legal drama unfold. The tension must have been incredibly thick.
Can't even imagine. Who are the key players in this courtroom showdown?
Well, Jacoby Barr, remember him? Byron's friend who admitted to providing the murder weapon. He becomes a crucial witness for the prosecution, takes a stand and recounts his involvement, laying it all out.
Wow. Betraying a friend, possibly incriminating himself further. That testimony must have been pretty heavy. What about the defense? What was their angle?
Well, they go after Jacoby, of course, trying to paint him as unreliable, suggesting he might have his own motives, even hinting that maybe, just maybe, he was the one behind it all, trying to shift the blame away from Byron.
Classic defense tactic. Create doubt, make everyone question everything. Did it work?
Hard to say for sure. But we know Detective Glauber, he also takes the stand. And his testimony, it's powerful. He walks the court through everything. The evidence, the interviews, Byron's erratic behavior, the crazy escape attempt. Really connects the dots, paints a clear picture of Byron's guilt.
It must have been pretty convincing.
It was, and in the end, it all comes down to the judge. After absorbing all the evidence, all the testimony, the judge delivers the verdict. Guilty. 2 counts of first-degree murder.
Justice served. It's a testament to all the hard work, the investigators, Jacoby coming forward, the judge's careful consideration of the facts. What about the sentence? What did Byron get?
Given the severity of the crimes, Byron Howard is sentenced to 99 years to life on each count.
A heavy sentence. A bittersweet victory, right? Bringing some closure to this tragic case. 2 families devastated, a community in shock, but at least there's some sense of justice.
It also serves as a stark reminder. A reminder of what can happen when rage and obsession spiral out of control. It highlights how important it is to recognize those red flags in relationships, take threats seriously, especially when there's a history of violence or controlling behavior.
Absolutely. But even with the conviction, the sentencing, there are still some lingering questions, aren't there? What really drove Byron Howard to do this? Was it just jealousy? Rage? Or was there something darker, deeper at play?
Yeah, it's a question you always kind of grapple with in cases like this, trying to understand what could push someone to such a dark place.
It is, yeah. It's one of those things that
Right.
even with, a guilty verdict, even with what seems like a pretty solid case, there are always those lingering mysteries.
There really are. And in this case in particular, there's actually a pretty significant loose end, isn't there?
You're right. Despite all the searching, the extensive investigation, Jacoby's testimony, even they never actually found the murder weapon, the gun that was used to kill Chessa, and Bernard was never recovered.
Wait, seriously, they never found it. Nope, never found it. It's a detail that sometimes gets lost in all the drama of the trial, the conviction, but it's a big piece of the puzzle that's still missing.
That's a little unsettling to think about, isn't it? Like, where did it go? Was it destroyed? Is it hidden somewhere? What secrets could it still hold?
Yeah, it's a reminder that even when justice is served, there are always going to be some questions that remain unanswered.
And those unanswered questions, they stick with you even after the case is closed.
They do. I think this deep dive has really given us a window into so many different aspects of this case. We've seen the incredible work of the investigators, the devastating impact on the families, the chilling psychology of the perpetrator, and the complexity of the justice system.
And we've really explored how important it is to recognize those red flags in relationships, those warning signs that we often miss or dismiss.
Absolutely. And we've seen firsthand how devastating it can be when rage and obsession spiral out of control.
But I think what's most important is that this deep dive encourages everyone listening to think critically, to look beyond the surface and ask the tough questions, even when the answers might not be easy to find.
Couldn't agree more. It's been a tough journey, delving into the dark side of human nature and the ripple effects of violence. But through understanding these cases, learning from the tragedies of the past, hopefully we can work towards a future where these senseless acts become less frequent.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into a birthday celebration turned deadly. We'll be back soon with another compelling case, another chance to explore the complexities of the human experience and the never-ending search for truth and justice.
Until then, stay curious, keep learning, and remember there's always more than meets the eye.